Panos, if you could, yes, share your screen, and I will give a brief introduction about our esteemed speakers. First, we have Stella Demesticha. Stella Demesticha is Associate Professor of Maritime Archaeology at the University of Cyprus. She studied archaeology at the National Capodistria University of Athens and received her PhD from the University of Cyprus. Since 2011, she has been the head of the Maritime Archaeological Research Laboratory, MARELAB, at the Archaeological Research Unit of the University of Cyprus. Her expertise lies in the maritime archaeology, Cyprus, and the Eastern Mediterranean, with a particular focus on shipwrecks, seaborne trade networks, and transport amphorae. She directs the underwater excavation at the Mazotos and Niskia shipwrecks. Niskia is one of our pilot sites in THETIDA, and she has carried out numerous field surveys and has participated in international research projects on the documentation and promotion of underwater cultural heritage. Stella will offer a concise yet thorough introduction to the archaeological importance of shipwrecks, drawing on her extensive fieldwork and experience in Cyprus and in Eastern Mediterranean. Then we have Barbara Davide Petriaggi. We are very happy to have Barbara with us. She's a director at the Underwater Archaeology Interventions Unit of the Central Institute for Restoration, Italy. This belongs to the Ministry of Culture, and she has directed also this unit since 2000, from 2011 to 2023 as well. Then the same duties has from the 27th of January till today. She is a former director of the Soprintendenza Nazionale per il Patrimonio Culturale Subacqueo, National Superintendency for Underwater Cultural Heritage, again the Ministry of Culture. And since February 2021 to November 2022, she was also director ad interim of the of another institution in the provinces of Brindisi and Lecce. From 2018 to present, she's a scientific responsible and director charged by the Italian Archaeological School of Athens and of the research projects Underwater Archaeology Research in the island of Limnos and Underwater Archaeological Mission in Epidaurus, Old Epidavros. And I think having said that, and before giving the floor to my colleague Dr. Panagiotis Michalis, who is the THETIDA project manager, I would like to welcome you and to thank you for giving the next 1 hour and a half of your time to get to know better our project THETIDA. We're very happy to have you in this webinar, and also stay tuned for the next activities of THETIDA. So Panos, I pass the floor to you now.
Yes, thank you very much, Lefteris, and I also want to provide a warm welcome to everyone for participating in our webinar series, and especially about episode 2, which will focus on underwater heritage. I'm Panos Michalis. I'm a senior researcher and senior project manager at the Institute of Communications and Computer Systems, who is the coordinating institution of THETIDA. And with this presentation, I'm going to provide you a very quick update about THETIDA, an overview. THETIDA aims to develop, test and validate an integrated underwater and coastal heritage risk assessment and protection system with evidence-based monitoring frameworks, innovative tools and instruments, by putting into practice participatory processes, by linking social innovations with cutting-edge technologies, ICT and IoT harmonized tools. We are 8 participating countries that joined the project, 17 partners on board, and we have 7 pilot sites. We're almost halfway through, and we have received for our activities funding of approximately 4 million euros. A quick overview of our slides, of our sites. We have 7 pilot sites in THETIDA, The 4 of them are underwater sites. Is Gallinar Island in Albenga in Italy. We have the Equa World War II steel shipwreck in La Spezia, again in Italy. And we also have Niskia shipwreck in Cyprus, and the consolidated B-24 Liberator, which is an aeroplane located at the bottom of the seabed in Algarve in Portugal. The main underwater threats that we have been focusing on is temperature, water pollution, acidification, human industrial activities, falling, overblooming, earthquake, and currents. But we also have in the project 3 coastal sites, IJsselmeer, which is in Netherlands, Hamkol cableway station in Svalbard, and the castle of Mykonos town in Greece. A quick overview of the THETIDA methodology. We mainly exploiting different and multi-sensing data coming from remote sensing, as we see here, coupled with in-situ sensing, like the boat sensors that we are developing to be used as crowd sensing devices. A smart buoy is now operational, but we also develop underwater sensing devices like the seabed and wearable sensors, but also an autonomous underwater vehicle with different sensing instruments on board, like sonar, optical, hyperspectral cameras. We also have coastal developments like the smart tags measure microcracks and acceleration at coastal sites, micro weather stations applied at the coastal sites, but also we are developing a crowdsourcing augmented reality mobile application to assist in data collection through crowdsourcing. So the incoming data from the sensing and citizen science, but also from material analysis, are being used as inputs for modeling, prediction, and visualization of risks. And these are being fed back to living labs and citizen tools to raise awareness, evaluation, and engagement for resilient and climate-neutral cultural heritage. The main objectives of the project is to safeguard and protect Europe's coastal and underwater cultural heritage, mainly focusing on climate change and natural hazards. We're doing that by exploiting cutting-edge monitoring technologies for addressing multi-hazard risk understanding and enhance the preparedness for faster, adapted, and efficient response to these incidents, and promote, test, and demonstrate innovative and sustainable modeling tools and a decision support system to support heritage authorities take better decisions about ongoing risks. And all these are happening through participatory and inclusive data acquisition by putting into practice citizen science and living lab approaches. So all these developments are validated and demonstrated in 7 pilot sites that aim to pave the way for the rapid uptake of the proposed systemic innovations that are being developed as part of the project. This is the last slide. I would also like to mention our active participation in the EU Green Cluster on Cultural Heritage, the Climate Effects Projects, which consists of THETIDA, Triquertra, STETSI, and Rescue Me projects. And this is an initiative from the European Commission with main goal to explore how to protect heritage and landscapes exposed to climatic and natural hazards. The main aim of the Green Cluster is to bring together actors from practice, research, and policy, and promote the development and adoption of advanced solutions that are developed in the 4 projects. Also to facilitate researchers to share insights and best practices and identify synergies for dissemination and communication actions, but also propose integrated feedback recommendations to policymakers in the European Commission and beyond. We were leading the activities, THETIDA was leading the activities of the Green Cluster during last year, and we actively participate in main events to disseminate and provide a synergistic approach with all the research community focusing on cultural heritage, but mainly between the 4 projects. So this is the partners that consist of consortium. So thank you very much for your attention. I think that we're ready to pass to the first presentation. Dimitri, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Panos. And before entering and giving the floor to Stella for the first presentation, let me share my screen and start this quiz that we have prepared. We hope that you like it. Just give me a moment. Yes, now you should be able to see my screen. Please, Panos, if you can confirm.
Yes, we see it.
Perfect. So, as you can see in the chat, you can enter at this following URL that you can see, www.menti.com, and use the code 62123635. Either, and more easy, is for you to scan this QR. So for us to understand if you have managed to enter the quiz, please give us a reactions with the thumbs up that you can see right in your screen and down on the down right on the screen. So I will give it something like 10 or 15 seconds more for everyone to connect. Again, either you can scan the QR or you can enter by putting the URL www.menti.com and use the code 62123635. But in any case, I have you can see on the next slide, hopefully, yes, again, the QR and the code, so you can, even if you have entered late on our webinar, you can also enter. So this is an introductory question just to get to know with the thematic of today's webinar. If you could put a pin on the map on which continent you think we have the most documented shipwreck sites. So as you can see, we have all these continents. Let's see what are you thinking about where we have the most shipwrecked sites. Yes, I can see that the majority pins on Europe. We have also some pins on the North America, one in Africa, one in Middle East, in the Mediterranean, just above Crete, some on Australia, and one at the Atlantic Ocean. I don't know if there is the Bermuda Triangle, but it's just in the Atlantic Ocean. But in any case, I think this question has to do and has to needs to raise some questions like what is a shipwreck site, what means that we document shipwreck sites, and what shipwreck is considered to be new, old, or ancient. But I think all these questions will be answered within the framework of the next two presentations. So with no other further ado, I would like to stop my presentation, give the floor to Stella, and start officially the webinar. So Stella, thank you once again for being here and for providing your valuable input. So I give you the floor.
Thank you, Dimitri. I will share my screen, I suppose, now. Can you see it okay?
Perfect, full screen, ready to go.
Okay, ready to go. So, good afternoon to everybody from me as well. As Dimitri said, in the next 15 minutes approximately, I will try to give you a brief introduction in shipwrecks and shipwreck archaeology, not to exhaust the subject, but mostly to trigger questions for the second part of our webinar. So what I will do is I will use the basic research questions to investigate the matter. And I will start with a very basic one. What is a shipwreck site? Well, in fact, it depends who you are asking, because if we're asking a diver, a shipwreck site can most probably be a perfect site for underwater pictures, because that's what divers are usually after, something different to see underwater. If you're my generation that grew up with Donald Duck and Scrooge looking for gold, then the shipwrecks were always hidden treasures. And when I ask this question to my students, much younger generation, when I ask them to give me an example of a shipwreck, the first that comes to their mind, of course, is the Titanic shipwreck, because that's so iconic and so well known. Now, for us, things are a bit different. The archaeologists consider ship as a shipwreck any concentration of material evidence underwater associated with the remains of a wrecking episode in the past, and not always underwater. Sometimes these wrecking episodes are now on land. So for us, a shipwreck may not even involve a ship and involve just an impressive cargo, as you see on the left, or only some sherds conglomerated on a rock, as you see on the right. Why are these also important? They are because in any pre-industrial society, as Keith McElroy once said, ships were the largest and the most complex machines produced. So anything that has to do with ships, now shipwrecks for us, is associated or links to several contexts of society and environment that are very important for us, because that's our job. We study history and we study the human past. So it's no surprise that the shipwrecks were the first sites that were investigated by underwater archaeologists. They were the flagship of maritime archaeology since the 1950s and 1960s. And because ships are mobile, they cross the oceans, they cross the seas. So the shipwrecks don't meet they meet no borders, not only state borders, but also no archaeological borders. In other words, when we study shipwrecks, we cannot limit ourselves to, say, for example, Aegean archaeology or Near Eastern archaeology, and not even the territorial waters of one country or the other, because exactly we need to collaborate among ourselves to understand what we're looking for. A ship from the Aegean may sink in Spain, or a ship from Italy may sink off Cyprus. And it's not only, shipwrecks are not only bringing together archaeologists from different parts of the world or different historical periods, but also scientists from different disciplines. So they become platforms for interdisciplinary research. And more to the topic of today's webinar, when it comes to sustainable management and public awareness, we need to ask even more specialists and to include more different disciplines in order to achieve our goals. So I think, Dimitri, this is the time for our first questions, if it's okay with you, to find out what shipwreck sites are for our participants.
Thank you, Stella. Let me switch to the webinar, to the Mentimeter. Now you should be able to see. For those that you have joined now, please join at menti.com and use the code that you can see. So the question is very simple, or seems very simple. So you should select what shipwreck sites for you are. Are they mysterious? Are they hidden treasures? Just a different type of archaeological site? Or are they cultural heritage that needs protection? Let us see. I think the majority till now, we have almost 20 people that have voted, and the number is rising, but we have I think, Stella, we have a clear winner, even if we do not have correct answers on this question. But I think that the audience sees shipwreck sites as cultural heritage that needs protection. So I don't know if you want to comment on that, or you want to go on with your presentation.
Well, maybe My comments were such that led people to this answer. Obviously, I agree that that's what they are. But as Dimitri said, there's no right or wrong here. Is sites, as a lot of other things in archaeology, is how we see how you conceive them, and that's what we want to see. Maybe we'll talk later and ask Barbara about her opinion. How can I go back? Should I share again?
Share again. Yeah, share again. Yeah.
Share again. Okay. Let's see. Oh, share again. So, okay. So my next topic is where after what. So where we can find shipwrecks. It depends again what angle we take. If we're talking about, if we consider geopolitical parameters, then we talk about shipwrecks that are found in territorial seas or exclusive economic zones. If we are talking about more, if we take a more oceanographic approach, then we can talk about the shipwrecks in the surf zone, nearshore zone, intercontinental shelf and international waters. In other words, we can find shipwrecks in all these different depths. But archaeologists, we like distribution maps. We like maps like that. And this is just the map that of the shipwrecks that were recorded in Europe 10 years ago, based on the Oxford Roman economy project. And you see that over 1,700 shipwrecks had been recorded. They are all over the Mediterranean, and I would like to open a parenthesis here to draw your attention on the fact that they are not only in the sea, but they can be found only in lakes and inland waters like rivers. So, and Panos before talked to you about the airplane in Portugal. So we're not talking about only ships, we're talking about shipwrecks, we're talking about planes. In this case, of course, these are shipwrecks that date until the 15th century, so the more modern, recent shipwrecks are not included in this map. What are these shipwreck sites? Well, we have to consider that the underwater environment is very dynamic. So, and a shipwreck is an accident. So it could happen anywhere under different circumstances. So all these parameters is what result in what we see underwater. And it can be, as you see on the bottom left, the whole ship preserved underwater, or it can be just the cargo, or it can be some sherds scattered on the seabed. These are all shipwrecks for us. But what how can we create a legislation form on these matters? Barbara will talk maybe more about that or comment. But for UNESCO, any site that it's older than 100 years should be considered cultural heritage, so it be considered protected. And this makes sense, of course, when we're talking about a classical shipwreck like the Mazotos shipwreck. Of course, it's a listed site or archaeological site. And because we are already in the 21st century, even a World War I ship is protected. But one of the THETIDA case studies is the Ikwa shipwreck, World War II steel shipwreck, which is not 100 years old yet. So one has to wonder, should it be protected? Is it legally protected? There are other ways to protect it. And I think that's the time for my next question, and I will stop sharing now, Dimitri.
Yes, thank you, Stella. Let me share once again the Menti and go to the next question. So which shipwreck sites are protected by law? The ancient ones, the shallow ones up to minus 60 meters, the well-preserved ones, or the ones that are over 100 years old? Let's see what your views are on that question. So as we can see, again, we have the majority selecting one option, the last one, that the ones that are over 100 years old. And I don't know, Stella, I think that this is
The
correct,
winner?
or yes, partially correct. But again, we have the vast majority, 80% of the people, 75% of the people that are selecting this option. So it seems interesting that we may have a lot of people that have a good knowledge of shipwreck sites, and this is very encouraging for us. So again, I'm stopping the quiz. These questions, I give back the floor to you.
Okay. Yes, it's interesting. However, that so younger shipwrecks are not always the ones that are deemed important to protect. However, some of us have different opinions. So what do we do with shipwrecks? How do we investigate shipwrecks? Archaeologists are we're doing our field work to document the sites, either by surveying them, or if we want to take a step further, we excavate. In any case, when diving is involved, one of the greatest challenges is the human resources and the logistics, because working in the water and under the water presents a lot of challenges and a lot of technical knowledge and expertise. In our projects, archaeologists are not always the best people with the technical expertise, so we ask for help. We ask volunteers, and we are always very grateful that we have their input, because again, this costs a lot, and archaeology is not a very rich discipline, so it relies on people that offer themselves to help. And on the other hand, it's very important that we have the right expertise on board in order for health and safety and for proper research procedures. Most of these volunteers think that they are coming and they're having an easy dive on top of the shipwrecks, and they don't anticipate that sometimes the conditions are not that easy. But anyway, we're grateful that most of them stay with us and well, help us accomplish our goals. Shipwreck archaeology does not always involve diving when we're talking about deeper sites, or even if the sites are not deep, but our main goal is to map. Thanks to the technology now available to most of us, we can use remote sensing, and you can see some rather detailed maps of very deep shipwrecks can now be acquired without any diving, but with other very specialized equipment. And when we do dive, as in the case with the Mazotos shipwreck, we use a lot of digital technologies in order to record in detail as much as we can, and map visualize our mapping much better. Apart from mapping, and that's very important, we have to consider that shipwrecks are like our labs, our laboratories, and we make use of the tiniest piece of information. This could be a small piece of wood shared, the pottery shared, or a small piece of metal. And by laboratory analysis, by scientific analysis, this can provide information about the provenance, the date, or the consistency of this material. So for us, every little sherd, every little piece of information, of material evidence matters. So you understand that these sites, the underwater sites that are deeper or shallow, they are very sensitive to environmental factors, and we don't want them disturbed. So apart from funding and human resources, we keeping in mind that we want the public to know what we're doing, several challenges are there that we have to face when we have to develop our strategies for site management and protection. And this is not always an easy decision to make, as the easy way for archaeologists is to adopt the restricted access approach. So we don't want others in our laboratories. We don't want people to come and disturb our sites. But this has several downsides. So public doesn't know about what we are doing. Then since public is not involved, funding is rather limited, and this leads to other problems. And on the other hand, open access or unrestricted access can run the risk of looting and disturbance, and this again affects our research. So this accessibility and inclusiveness, it's very I think nobody denies that that's the goal, but it's not always an easy decision. And so that's the next question, Dimitri. Which shipwreck sites should be open to the public or to the divers in specific?
Okay, thank you. Let us see what you believe. Which shipwreck sites should be open to the public or to the divers? The most impressive or the most well-preserved ones? The ones close to the shore? The oldest ones, or all of them? Let's see what do you believe?
People have to think.
Yeah.
Not an easy answer. Oh, it seems we do have a winner, or?
Yes, once again. All of them, and maybe even more. I would comment on that, Stella.
Well, that's something to discuss. I'm sure my friend Barbara has a lot to say here.
Yeah, and of course, to that point, till you reopen your presentation, let me tell you that you can, of course, register your questions using the Q&A session that you can find up left on your screen. We will inform our esteemed speakers about your questions or your comments. So please feel free throughout the presentation of Stella and later Barbara to express yourselves, ask whatever you have in mind regarding this presentation. So Stella?
Yes. The next topic I wanted to touch on is something that, well, I've been thinking about and working on for quite a while, is a different approach to shipwreck sites, not only as cultural heritage sites, but also as particular ecosystems. And this is because shipwrecks are actually artificial reefs. They attract a lot of marine life, so they create a particular ecosystem, sometimes with unique biodiversities. And so, okay, that can be a very philosophical theme. I'm not going to go deep into it, but sometimes we have to face this fake dichotomy. Natural, which is more important, is the natural ecosystem or the cultural heritage? And why do we have to do that? Not, we don't have to, but why it comes up as a subject is because sometimes our activity affects the ecosystems of the shipwrecks. In other words, you see, when we go especially to excavate or even to survey, we disturb the sites. So sometimes we need to think, should we do that in our planet where the ecosystem and the nature is so fragile? And another also interesting aspect to this is how the two, on the other hand, the two approaches, the one of the environmental scientists and the archaeology, can come together. I was very intrigued by this study where people studied the behavior of octopussy or octopi in shipwreck sites because octopus loves to nest in shipwrecks. So again, it's a very interesting synergy and combination that I think is happening with shipwreck sites because they have this unique characteristic. And with these thoughts, only these thoughts, I think we can pass to the next question and see what people think.
Perfect. Let me share once again. Sorry, I think here we are. Just give me a moment. Just a moment because it disappeared from my screen, so I will share the whole screen and then enter from here. So you can see the mentee. Do virtual or augmented
No, it's
no?
the previous one.
It's the previous one, sorry. No.
Okay, then maybe I changed anyway, can you go, is it possible to go to this? Do archaeological excavation have a negative impact on the marine ecosystem?
Yeah,
Is it
just
possible to go
yes,
there?
yes, and
Yes,
we will
okay.
shift
Okay.
it again. So, do archaeological
Okay.
excavation have a negative impact on the marine ecosystem? Yes, yes, but they're necessary. No, cultural heritage comes first. I do not know, never thought about it. Interesting option, Stella. So yeah, we have a derby here, not a clear winner like the previous ones. We have 6 and 9 answers. Not again. Yes, again we have some question that is exceeding. Yes, but they are necessary. Or yes, but yes, if we put it in total, yes and yes, but they are necessary. We have again a big winner.
So I think most of the participants are archaeologists. If they were biologists, we will have different answers.
Interesting. We would like to know, and if you could comment on the chat, how many of you are archaeologists? This would be interesting for us to see. But in any case, I am stopping to the sharing and give you the floor back to you, and then we will change the question and we'll put the right
Okay,
one.
thank you. Yes, thank you. Okay. Right, so I continue with this aspect of access. I suspect that a lot of divers love this initiative, recent initiative in Greece, and there is, of course, much earlier start with Barbara at the helm in Bahia with archaeological sites that have become archaeological parks open to divers for visits. But this is not always easy. And one of the main concerns, I'm sure Barbara will comment more about it, is that once we expose, especially organic materials, we cannot just leave them there for the public to see. There are decay factors, so we cannot possibly investigate and then open and then leave the hull remains to rot. So what we do is we cover it. Sometimes we have to protect our shipwrecks not just from natural parameters, but also from the human presence, from divers, or from the combination of both. And you see, in the past, there were several experiments of how we can do that. On the left, there is a structure that was put on top of a shipwreck in Spain. It was like a metal structure, very elaborate one. And on the right, a more simple solution that was adopted in Croatia many years ago, just a cage to protect the shipwreck. So before we do anything, the shipwreck is there, it remains in situ, but people cannot approach. But you see, I have an example here where we have surveyed a shipwreck site which could not be protected with or covered as we saw before. What we did is just covered it with geotextile and sandbags. So we protected from natural parameters and from people, because in order for somebody to go and loot it, of course, looters can always do what they want, but we make their life more difficult. But my point here is that even if we wanted to turn this site into an open archaeological park, now what we've left behind is not a nice archaeological site, but a site of sandbags and geotextiles. So there will be not much left for the visitors to see. What we often do, and the digital technology now allows us to do, is to, instead of inviting people to visit the site underwater, and given that not everybody can dive and come underwater, we use digital technologies to allow people to experience with augmented or immersive reality applications, experience a little bit the underwater environment and see what we see. And of course, now there are several examples of applications or other ways to invite people to explore underwater sites. So that's my last question, I think. What our participants think, yes, you will read it.
Yep. Let's go back and do virtual augmented reality exhibition address the problem of public accessibility to underwater sites? I think it's a very interesting question, and let us see if you agree or not. If you don't know or you've never been to one, this is also interesting to know. Yeah, I think also apart from a lot of archaeologists, we have a lot of tech savvy people here, Stella.
Okay, yes.
So I'm not sure if archaeology people and technology connect always. In most of the cases, you can tell me. You know more maybe, but I think it's very interesting if we connect new technologies and virtual augmented and XR technologies with archaeology. We can have a lot of interesting results in any case.
That's the trend. That's the trend, and I think that's what we're trying to do. So this was my last question, Dimitri. So I think we can give the floor to Barbara.
Perfect. And once again, before giving the floor, to remind you that you can address your questions. We already have one question for you, Stella, but I would opt in continue the discussion with Barbara, and later
Yes.
on have all the questions all together. And Barbara, if you could share your presentation as well.
Here I am. One moment, please. Can you see my presentation? Now I
Yes, we can see it in full
yes.
screen. You can start. Thank you very much, Barbara.
Yes, you're welcome. So thank you for the invitation. It is a pleasure to speak to you today as colleagues, researchers, and citizens with a sharing interest in the protection of our submerged cultural heritage. As an underwater archaeologist specializing in in-situ conservation, I have spent years working at the intersection of science, history, and heritage management, often in environments where the past lie quietly beneath the surface, hidden but not forgotten. What brings us together today is not only a scientific subject, I think, but an ethical one. Across the world, seas, rivers, and lakes, ancient shipwrecks and underwater archaeological sites are under constant threat from natural decay, environmental change, and human activity. These are fragile time capsules, and their loss would mean the irreversible disappearance of part of our collective story. Today, I'd like to explore with you three key aspects of this challenge: the causes and processes that lead to the degradation of underwater cultural material artifacts, especially wood, stone, metals, and ceramic; the strategies we use to protect their remains directly on the seabed through in-situ conservation; and the ways in which we can enhance access, awareness, and protection through emerging technologies and public engagement while respecting the archaeological context. Underwater cultural heritage, be it shipwrecks, ancient harbors, or cargoes, is constantly exposed to the force of nature. Once submerged, archaeological materials enter onto complex interaction with their surrounding environment, and these interactions are often slow and invisible, yet deeply destructive over the time. And the degradation of underwater material depends on the material they have done. So we will see as the wood, organic material, or stone, or metal, or ceramic have different typology of degradation, and we are going to analyze this in summary, not really in deep, okay, we don't have time, but I just want to give you an idea, just to present the problematic. Concerning ceramic, we have microfractures, and wait a moment, I have to move all the faces of people at home. Where we have microfractures and spalling, incrustation, and altering the original appearance. Concerning metals, we have corrosion, microbial degradation; stone, we have bioerosion, acidification of the material; and concerning wood, organic material, we have especially biological attack as shipworm and bacteria. Ceramic recovered from the sea may appear intact, but often suffer hidden deterioration. Salt absorption during immersion leads to crystallization and microfractures when dried. Marine organisms can entrust the surfaces, altering texture and color, and chemical interaction may cause leaching or mineral replacement. These effects highlight the importance of controlled desalinization and conservation after recovery. Concerning the metal deterioration, we can have a different typology of deterioration for bronzes and iron and lead, for example. Metals such bronze and alloy of copper and tin is susceptible to bronze disease, a self-sustaining chloride-induced corrosion process that can continue even after recovery unless properly treated. Lead corrodes more slowly, but can, from fragile sulfide layer in a toxic sulfur-rich condition. Now I want to show you two masterpieces. One is the dancing satyr of Mazzara del Vallo, and one of the ram of the first panic battle in Levant, in south of Italy, in Sicily. But you see the iron. We have a lot of artifacts made in iron in antiquity, so helmets and artifacts. And iron reacts with oxygen and chlorides to form unstable corrosion products. Over time, this creates a thick concretion that can preserve the outline of an object, but often destroy its inner structures. Microbially influenced corrosion add another layer of complexity, accelerating decay in certain sediment conditions. As I told you before, lead corrodes more slowly, but can form fragile sulfide layers in an oxy-sulfur-rich condition. The most fragile artifact material is the wood, of course. Wood was the primary construction material of most ancient vessels. Contrary to common belief, water does not preserve wood indefinitely. In oxygen-rich environments, wood is rapidly colonized by marine organisms such as Teredo navalis, a shipworm, and Limnoria, wood-boring isot. This small creature can hollow out entire holes in just a few years. In sediment-covered or low oxygen conditions, wood can survive for centuries, but it is still at risk. Bacterial communities, particularly sulfate-reducing bacteria, break down lignin and cellulose, the main structural component of wood. This process not only weakens the wood, but can also generate harmful byproducts such as hydrogen sulfide, which later oxidize and sulfuric acid, especially when the artifact is raised and exposed to air. Concerning stone is durable material, but is yet not immune. Stone artifacts often appear more resilient, but they too suffer, especially in marine environment. Calcareous stones, such as marble and limestones, are vulnerable to acidification caused by increasing of CO2 levels in seawater, which accelerates the dissolution of calcium carbonate. But furthermore, certain biological agents, boring sponges like Leona algae and cyanobacteria, penetrate stone surfaces and cause a phenomenon known as bioerosion. Even granitic stones can suffer physical wear from sediment abrasion, wave action, and thermal stress, particularly in shallow or turbulent waters. So, you can understand that in-situ conservation strategies are very important to protect underwater cultural heritage. When dealing with underwater heritage, archaeologists and conservators today follow a guiding principle. Preservation in situ, when possible, is preferable to excavation and removal. Not only is it often the most effective method for long-term stability, but it also respects the integrity and the authenticity of the site, as the 2001 Convention for the Protection, UNESCO Convention for the Protection of Underwater Cultural Heritage says. Well, we have some, now I want to show you some technique that in general we use. We use the reburial technique. It's a controlled reburial. It's one of the most widely used and cost-effective in situ methods. By covering exposed element with layers of geotextile or sand or sediment can create the stable low oxygen condition that limits biological activity, and chemical corrosion. Red barrier also serves to protect site from physical threats such as storms, currents, and anchor damage, and from looting, which remains a major concern in many areas. We have also physical protection structures that Stella Demesticha showed you before, such as protective cages, sandbags, or engineering covering. They are designed to be non-invasive and reversible system following international conservation guidelines. This purpose is to shield the site while allowing for environmental exchange and monitoring. We have also physical barriers as a block of cement in shallow water, as that was done by the Superintendenza to protect a very important wreck, the Torre Santa Sabina wreck, and thanks to this protection, Rita Uriemma from the Professor Rita Uriemma of the University of Salento can do the excavation of the site that was well preserved over the years in really shallow water, about less than 1 meter. We have also physical barriers as metal panels that we use to protect a wreck not far from Rome, in Montalto di Castro, a Roman wreck. But we can protect in situ also the iron structures, so cannons, wrecks of the First and Second World Wars, using the cathodic protection, sacrificial anodes to prevent corrosion, has been successfully tested in underwater archaeological setting. Though more common in maritime industry, this technology is now adapted to heritage protection with promising results. This is not the argument of this presentation, because we are speaking about wrecks, but I want to show just a slide on the conservation in situ of baie and in general of architectural archaeological remains of structures, Roman villas, harbors that started in Italy thanks to an idea of Roberto Petriaggi, the former director of the unit of underwater archaeology of my institute, the Central Institute for Conservation, just to tell you that also architectural structure can be restored and protected underwater. We have also new strategies to protect underwater cultural heritage is the monitoring and non-invasive diagnostic. None of these strategies are effective without long-term monitoring, because you don't leave underwater archaeological site, you cover it without think of it for years. No, it's very important, the long-term monitoring. And thanks to advances in underwater photogrammetry, sonar scanning, and environmental sensor, we are able now to detect changes in site condition with high precision and minimal disturbance. These tools also help generate accurate 3D models of the site, which became essential for documentation, conservation planning, and virtual dissemination. And so we have now new technology, and I want to speak few words about new technologies for in situ valorization with the use of new technology, augmented reality, immersive digital experiences, sensor networks, and the possibility to include cultural heritage in underwater parks and marine protected area that can be with a very important activity of valorization. While conservation is essential, valorization giving value to heritage through responsible access, education, and visibility is equally important, of course. Recent technological developments have made it possible to promote submerged heritage without removing it from its context, so in situ. Augmented reality and virtual reality applications are now being used to recreate underwater archaeological sites in immersive ways. Divers can explore sites using waterproof tablets and ER masks that superimpose reconstruction onto real rules, while the public can experience digital dive from the land-based museum and the educational center. So I show you a system that we have designed in the MUSAS project, the Museum of Underwater Archaeology. Here is a system that works with acoustic beacons and acoustic modem, and the divers can see the augmented reality and read some information about the archaeological site in the tablet. How works the system? Thanks to an acoustic localization system that help the divers know where is their position in the archaeological sites. Here you can see what appear on the tablet, information about the archaeological site, but also information about the time of the diver or the depth or the air in the bottle. So a lot of information that can be useful during the visit underwater. Here you can see the nymphaeum of Claude, of the Emperor Claude Mbaye, with the simplified reconstruction in augmented reality of the exploration of the site. But of course, you have to think also to people that don't dive, and thanks to virtual reality, you can prepare histories and reconstruction of ancient sites that can be visited in the museum or at home, thanks to the visors of augmented reality. And this is a very interesting way to show to people that don't dive the site and the submerged archaeological site how there were in antiquities. This is the example of a project called the Agriculture, in which we have done a lot of things, but also this dry visit by that is download. You can download them and to visit the villa with Protiro entrance. Now, with the new project called Amphitrite, Amphitrite, I think English, and we are designed and are going to start to use in the next summer this underwater speaker, providing narrative environmental description for all users, including those with disabilities, enabling accessible site-specific audio experience underwater. And they are very useful, and I think that this smart speaker have a future for the visit of underwater archaeological site. Then this is my conclusion. I return to a central idea. Underwater cultural heritage is not only a source of scientific information, it is a testimony to human culture, creativity, resilience, and exchange across time and seas. Its conservation, it is shared responsibility that requires restraint, innovation, and above all, collaboration between science and general publics and all the authorities involved. Let us continue to refine the science of underwater preservation and conservation in situ while embracing new ways to share the submerged legacy with the world ethically sustainable and with wonder, I hope. So we are ready now for the questions that I prepared for you. Thank you for your attention. This is my email. If you are interested in our project, you can write to me when you want. Bye.
I don't know if yes, mille grazie, Barbara. Thank you very much. Really interesting what you have presented, and let's go to the next question. We already have some answers because I have put it on the Mentimeter. What's the main goal of in situ preservation of underwater cultural heritage? To preserve the site in its original location underwater, to raise artifacts for display in museums, to allow natural processes to fully take over the site, or to protect the site while keeping it accessible for future research. Let's see what are the views, and of course you may comment live on the results as you have ended your presentation. We can see that the last options to protect the site while keeping it accessible for future research wins. But what would you like to comment on that? And
No,
are
it's
there any correct questions, correct answers on that?
yes, sometimes people surprise us with their answer. That is not wrong, of course, the majority, because yes, we can wait, and it could be important to protect for the future research, for future generations. So that is my comment.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the next one, which is what is a common method used in situ preservation of underwater sites? Covering the site with protective layers of sand or geotextile, using explosives to remove surrounding sediments, drying and relocating the site to a controlled environment, or limiting diver access and marking the site on nautical maps. Let's see. Yeah, I think we have a strong winner here. Is the first option
Yes.
that I think it's the correct one, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
that's true. Yes, this is true. Yes.
Nice.
Yes, we can move from the first one.
Yes, and which of the following is an example of in situ valorization of an underwater archaeological site? Creating an underwater archaeological park with controlled visitor access, dismantling the site and reconstructing it in an aquarium, allowing unrestricted access to the site without regulations, or creating an underwater archaeological park with controlled visitor access. Let's see. 55% for the first option, 57, 60, 40. So a slight, yeah, we see that the first option is more.
Yeah. It is. I think that create a park or improve the visit of archaeological sites that are in the marine protected area, for example, is a good solution for have the protection and the enhancement of underwater cultural heritage, because the sites that are archaeological sites that are in parks or in marine protected area are protected by the people that is not allowed to enter. So the access of people is regulated by the direction of the park, of course, but thanks to the presence of people that work in the park and the management of this archaeological site are is well done, and I think it's a better way. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. I will stop sharing and now I will open the floor to the audience, to all of you. We have nearly 20 minutes for the Q&A session, so I will start by reading the questions that you can also see, of course, in the Q&A section. The first is for Stella from Luigi. Sorry, it's for Barbara. Do you think that the underwater augmented reality solutions you talked about are affordable for the average diving center and can be implemented? Routinary recreational dives?
Can you repeat, please? Because
Do,
I have a problem with.
do, do you
Can you
think that
repeat?
do you think that the underwater augmented reality solutions you talked about are affordable for the average diving center and can be implemented in routinary recreational dives?
Yes, I'm sure that it's possible, and I think that in the next years we will find this typology of visit in our diving center. The technologies is in a good quality now, and so it's possible to buy these technologies is not too expensive, and also managing this smartphone or tools is not too expensive for diving center. So I think that in the next year this could be a good way to visit underwater archaeological site, especially for wrecks that are not well preserved or that can be exposed just for a portion, not all, or for a big area, large archaeological site, architectural site, for example, that can be open to the public in total, and that can be better known thanks to this augmental contents, scientific, archaeological, biological contents that can give more information for divers.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. And a question for you, Stella. To your knowledge, do most shipwreck discoveries happen after general large-scale remote surveys or smaller diving survey campaigns directed by other archaeological hints or just accidentally by divers, fishermen, etc.?
Okay, repeat it. For some reason, I cannot see it on the chat. So can you repeat it, please?
Of course, it's on the
muted.
Q&A, so you can
Oh,
open the
it's on the
Q&A.
Q&A. So
Yes, not on the chat, and it is the second one.
Okay, so to your knowledge, do most shipwrecks discoveries happen after general large? Oh, yes. Well, to my knowledge, most shipwreck discoveries are happening after fishermen and divers or sea professionals, non-archaeologists, find them accidentally and report them to the authorities. This is not to say that large-scale surveys are not useful. On the contrary, they are very useful because they give us a comprehensive picture and idea of what there is in the water. But especially up to 50 meters where most people dive, so far, very important discovery, especially in Cyprus, that the question is about, started with fishermen that reported it to the authorities. That is the case with the Kyrenia shipwreck back in the 60s. This is the case with the Mazotos shipwreck most recently, the Nisya shipwreck that we are talking about and we investigate with THETIDA and others too. A lot of sites have been located through surveys, but the most impressive shipwrecks were first found by non-archaeologists.
Perfect. Thank you, Stella. Do you have any other questions from the audience? Of course, if you want to raise your hand and I can grant you with access for the mic. Again, this is something that can be done, or of course you can write it down on the Q&A or even at the chat. Yes, Stella?
Can I
Yes.
comment and ask Barbara Davide, since we have her here, her ideas about this question, the answers we had, that most of our participants think that all shipwreck sites should be open to the public. What do you think about this?
I think that yes, of course, people want to see underwater archaeological sites, want to visit them, but it's impossible to open all the underwater archaeological sites to the public. As I show you in my slide in these few minutes, there are some at the moment, we have some material, has wood, for example, or stone, that if you decide to open to the public, are going to be destroyed in a few months or years. It depends of the bioerosion, for example, of the stone is more slowly instead of the terreno navalis in the wood. So we have to choose some typology of underwater archaeological site that can be open and that can became a museum underwater. Wood, for example, at the moment, it's impossible to be to show to the public. So if we have a wreck made by wood, we have to cover by sand, but what we want, but we have to cover. Concerning stone, for example, in Baie, we open to the public a portion of the mosaic that can be exposed for the moment of the visit and then covered again by the sand, by the divers that are authorized by the direction of the park. Or concerning the cargoes, big stone cargoes like sarcophages of columns, of blocks, marble. In that case, also if the bioerosion is on course, we leave these wrecks open to the public, and we're monitoring the state of conservation. We are also working in find the protective, we study for material that can protect stone, for example, but at the moment we have not the solution. So we have to decide together with the conservator, and together also it depends of the depth of the site. There are a lot of parameters, yes, and variability.
Variables, yes.
Variable, yes. Sorry for my English.
So do you think that the ones close to the shore, the ones that most people access anyway,
yes,
should be prioritized to be turned into some kind of archaeological park, or some way they are, in some sense, they are anyway open to the public, because policing is very difficult. Yeah. But you are the expert in this kind of management. It's for me, it's a question. Should the ones closest to the shore should be the ones that they are at risk most for looting, not the environmental parameter?
Yes, for looting, it depends of the monitoring of the site, the presence of guardians, or marine protect area are very useful, because there is a guardian, so there are people involved that work there. Also, sometimes, in some cases, share with the population of the site the awareness of underwater cultural heritage, help the archaeologists to protect underwater archaeological sites that are without, out of the park, out of scattered on the seabed, we can say. So, for example, deep wrecks until now are very safe, but now the technology is changing, and now also people very rich can go using ROV or AOV alone and can bring some amphoras without authorization of the authorities. So.
Yes, there are a lot of
Yes.
parameters. You're right. That each
Yes.
site is unique, and
Yes.
we need to
To
see,
plan.
yes,
To
to
plan.
take into consideration the material, the depth, the accessibility, and all, and of course the importance of the wreck, because some very important wrecks we excavate and there is nothing left for people to see in situ. Of course, they see it ex situ in the museums.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, the discussion is open,
and if there is no other question, I have another one for Barbara, if I can. I don't know how we are with time, Dimitri.
I don't have. Yes, I'm here I try to, because I think at 4:30 we closed.
Yes, we close. So I
Yes.
don't know if we have time for another
Yes,
question,
please.
Dimitri.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, of course, Stella, we'll have time for
Okay.
5 minutes more. So yes.
Okay, just a short one. I wanted Barbara's idea about the protection, the 100 years old, the question about which ones should be protected by. So we know that by law, the 100-year-old shipwreck sites are protected, but what about the ones that are not 100 years old yet, but they will be in 10 years? Or in 5 years.
Yeah.
And by then they may be looted and or undocumented, so because they're not protected, they don't attract scientific attention. And then when the time comes and they are finally listed, they are destroyed already. What do we do with these sites? I mean, and I mean about metal wrecks, more recent wrecks.
Yes. Yes, we have to work with diving. I think it's a simple answer. We have to work with people, we have to inform, we have to share the importance, the concept that is important to protect the cultural heritage, and that the wrecks are the history, they do our history, and so if you bring a portion of a wreck, you are going to lose forever. So I think that now, thanks to the 3D reconstruction, we can also decide that the university, for example, can do some project to do the 3D relief, to test new tools to do a 3D relief on a wreck that is not protected, just to have a copy.
The record, yes, the record of it.
To record of it.
Yes, I think
yes.
that's very, that
yes,
goes well with the THETIDA project, because we have the
yes. We have to register it, we have to document if it's possible, to share our experience with common people that can help us to protect, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Stella. Thank you, Barbara. I think we have a really interesting and fruitful second webinar for THETIDA. So I would like to thank you both for your efforts and your presentations. I hope that everything is more clear in the field of underwater shipwrecks and whatever we have discussed today. But in any case, please, and I would like, of course, to thank everyone that have stayed till now. Stay tuned because more webinars for THETIDA will come ahead in the coming months. And of course, you can find us on social media. You can see every detail in the chat. My colleague Fanny have posted everything. Visit our website, www.thetida.eu. And we hope to see you again soon in one of our next webinars. Thanks one again. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.